Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DMV Business Show. I'm your host, Otto Sevilla, and today I have a very special guest for you. We have Donta Henson. Donta is the co-founder and CEO of Los Hermanos Tequila. Welcome to the show, Donta.
Odo, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Pleasure's all mine. Finally, we get to do it. I know we've been back and forth for some time.
Yeah, like life comes at you fast, and so I'm
Hey,
happy that we could make some time to make it happen, though.
yeah, definitely. So before we go into your journey, in case the audience hasn't heard of, obviously they hear the name tequila, but if you could just give them a brief general overview of who is Los Hermanos Tequila.
Sure. Los Hermanos Tequila is a company my brother and I started back in 2020. We are Baltimore's first tequila company, which makes us the first veteran-owned tequila company, but not the first in Maryland. We want to clarify, but the first in Baltimore. And so, yeah, that's the really, really brief overview of us.
Perfect. Are you originally from the area here?
Yeah. So my brother and I were from Pasadena, Maryland. Grew up in Baltimore.
Okay. In the city or outside the city?
No, so there's a 7-year age difference between my brother and I. So my brother actually grew up in the city, where I actually grew up in the Glen Burnie area.
Okay. Yeah, Anne Arundel County. Okay. So are you said 7-year difference. So who's the oldest or wisest?
Yeah, that's split. My brother's the oldest, so he's
Okay.
7 years older than me.
All right, that's nice. I guess growing up in Glen Burnie, like, what were you into? What did you like?
Yeah. So me, growing up out here, I stayed out here because I was an outdoors kind of person. So I like to be, the green spaces, the forest, the trees. That was my whole thing. So it was like everything outdoors that I could get my hands on. Whether it was hiking, camping, or just foraging through the woods, whatever. Like I just like to be outside. So growing up, it was always that, and then playing football or whatever outdoors, whatever kept me outdoors, riding bikes. That was just my jam.
Okay, I see. That's good. So you did all high school and everything through Glen Burnie, right? That
Um, for a brief stint, I went to couple years middle school, early high school in Baltimore, and then I came back to Glen Burnie.
okay. And I guess after high school, did you already know what you wanted to do, or what happened?
Yeah. So funny enough, at high school, I was going to go to Fisk University down in Tennessee to be an English major, and when it kind of got time to go, I was kind of actually scared to go to Fisk. Like it was far away. I didn't know anybody in Tennessee, right? And I think the idea of going to Tennessee by myself just kind of scared the hell out of me as a teenager. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to Morgan, stay kind of close. And end up not going to Morgan, and I ended up taking that year off. And then it was just like, okay, after a year, you know what? I was like, all right, I got to make a move. And my cousin and I, we just had ideas like, you know what? We should, go see what the military has to offer. And we had the idea that we were going to go talk to, all the branches, see who had the best offer. And it just that happens that day when we got there, the Air Force recruiters were out to lunch, and the Navy guys was like, "Hey, can you help me?" We were like, "Sure." And so we sat down and talked to them, and we wanted to go to the buddy program. They said, "No problem." Got us in there, signed us up. Not the buddy program. We came 2 weeks apart, but we left, and that was it. I did 9.5 years in the Navy.
Wow. So Navy, here we come. And what were you doing mostly in the Navy?
Yeah. So my MOS, or rating, as the Navy calls it, was I work personnel. Eventually got the personnel, but I work finance. So I take care of everybody's pay, their benefits, and at the time, when the ship still used money, I worked the cash cage and maintained the ship's ATMs.
Okay. So were you able to travel a lot?
Yes, yes. In my what? So of the 9 years I was in the Navy, I did 6 years on ships. So I traveled to every continent with the exception of South America during that time.
I have to ask, what was your favorite spot?
Wow. I think my favorite spot was it's a toss up like between Guam, because I think that's a place where a lot of people don't go, and it's like really beautiful down there in the Pacific. That, or I think Kuala Lumpur, like being able to go to Malaysia,
Uh-huh.
like that was really different to see just how different things are on the other side of the world.
Hmm.
Like most people from here, I think, or this side of the country or globe, usually travel to the Caribbean. A few might make it to, Western Europe, but not a lot of people go that far into Asia.
Hmm.
So, like even again, when I went to Hong Kong, felt like I was traveling into the future. Like it was so technologically advanced. It was a culture shock. So, like it was some great things, but I just think the smaller places where you kind of get more immersed in the culture is
Uh-huh.
what really, stuck with me. And so I think between Guam and Kuala Lumpur was my favorite too.
I'm sure, as a kid from Baltimore, being exposed to all this was just like it's like a different world.
Absolutely. And again, before the Navy, I've never left really off 95. So farthest north I've been is Philly, and the south was North Carolina. So I've
Okay.
only been up and down. And when I got the chance coming out of boot camp, took my duty station, I picked New Jersey. That was the first place. Like, cool, close to home. So getting out of there though, and really, like, because my first duty station was New Jersey, and then I went to Meridian, Mississippi for tech school. Then I went to came back to Norfolk, went to Pensacola for 3 years, and then went to Japan for my last two. And just having the ability to live other places and to see how other people live, that exposure really kind of changed me a lot, and it made me look at things differently when I got back home to see like the way we live isn't the only way that you can live. Like
Hmm.
people do things differently. Life can be different in different places. So that exposure really kind of drove me to push the people in my life to look for different things. Let's look for different opportunities.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you 100%. I mean, that's the reason why I love to travel, international when I get the chance. It's just a different culture, like you said, if you get involved in it. Uh, I'm curious, after you left to service in the Navy, Dante, did you just personally, have you also traveled abroad?
Yeah, so since leaving the Navy, we went to Costa Rica in 2018,
Hmm.
which has become my new favorite place. And then and then we went to Mexico, I think like twice, down to Guadalajara, of course, right, on this tequila journey. But next month we're going to London. So, get a chance to get back out there and actually go, see things with my time.
Sure. No, definitely. So after 9 years, you leave, and did you already, as far as have an idea what you wanted to do after your service?
Absolutely not. So when I left the Navy in 2009, people remember that was in the middle of the financial crisis. And
Yeah.
at the time, I was stationed in Japan, and my wife and my 5-year-old son were living in Washington State in Tacoma. And and so when I went there, the Navy said if you go unaccompanied, it's a 2-year tour, and you come back, you can go to shore duty for another 3 years or 4 years. So I was like, okay, 2 years, I can do that. Standing on my head. So I took the 2 years, not knowing in Japan these squadrons over there in fleet is forward deployed, meaning every 2 months you're on a deployment. So in the 2 years that I was in Japan, I got to see my wife and my son twice. And
Wow.
so, when it came time for me to, all right, now I finished my two, the Navy says, well, we changed the seashore rotation. You owe us another year. My wife says, I'm not coming to Japan. Like, I got a job here, I got a career here, we're settled. I'm not coming. The Navy, only option the Navy gave me was either to stay in Japan for another year, or I could go to another ship stateside, which would mean at a minimum another 2 years tour. And so, I'm in between a rock and a hard place at this time. And it was just like, you know what? Like my wife was just like, you got to make a decision. It's also the Navy, and so I was like, fine. I chose my family, and I left, and I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. But for me, I was really lucky because they had just came out with the post 9/11 GI Bill, and so I was able to take advantage of that and go to school and get paid still while I figured out what I wanted to do.
Hmm. And where'd you end up going to school?
So yeah, we like I said, my wife and my son were in Tacoma, so I came back and we stayed in Tacoma. I did a year at Tacoma Community College before ultimately, took a job with the DOD. So we packed up and moved to North Carolina, down in Jacksonville at Camp Lejeune. And I think about 9 months there, it was just like, okay, like this was a really small town. It's not a lot of opportunity here. And it was like, in order to do what I wanted to do, I was like, I got to go back to school. And so at the time, the ACA was just getting passed, the Affordable Care Act. And so, I was like, okay, well, healthcare is going to be big. maybe I'll go to school to be a healthcare administrator. And not knowing at the time, most hospital administrators have MBAs. I was just looking at it from the healthcare perspective. So, who has health administration? And at that time, it was only two schools in the country that offered that program. It was UMBC and another school, and I can't remember the other school. But at the same time, the VA, I guess, was paying out way too much money for people to go to school. So they changed the rules, said they were only paying your tuition if you were getting in-state tuition. And so now, being in North Carolina, the only two options I had were to go back to Washington State because that's where I was discharged at, or come back, to Maryland where I enlisted.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, it makes sense. I can move from North Carolina up to Maryland. I can go back to UMBC to get this program. And so, yeah, I just came back and I went to UMBC, got my bachelor's in health administration, ended up staying to get my master's in health IT.
Perfect. Is your wife also from Maryland or no?
Yep, born and raised from Maryland.
Okay, great. So it was a homecoming then.
Yeah. We ended up coming back to the same community we grew up in.
Oh, nice. Okay. So you said you went on, you also got your master's, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then I guess you go into, career afterwards.
Yep. So in my last semester at UMBC undergrad, I had to do internship. And so one of my professors was like, a lot of people in this program goes to Medicare, to get an internship. And so I said, okay, you know what? I know I had a government job before. I know how to work USA jobs. And so I go find me an internship, come back, let them know, hey, I got an internship here. And it was like, oh, wow. Like, they were impressed that I went and got it on my own. But I was like, I already had a job, so I knew how to work this. But what made me end up staying at Medicare was that when I left DOD, I was a GS5. My supervisor, who managed four of us, was a GS7. And she had to petition, back in Norfolk to get her position raised to a GS9. I get to, CMS, and I think they said 70% or 80% of the building were GS13s. And I was like, what? That was mind blowing to me. I'm just coming out of school and getting ready to a place where I'm working with these people. So, I was like, you know what? My military time carried over to my federal time. So I was like, yeah, we're just going to stay here and ride this thing out. Mm-hmm. So I've been working in Medicare since 2013.
Mm-hmm. When did the idea of this tequila company start brewing up?
Yeah, we got the idea during the pandemic. So as the story goes, during the lockdowns, like everybody else, my brother and my wife and I, we had a lot of time on our hands. So my brother, my wife was really big on tequila. So when my brother would come to the house, he would bring a bottle of tequila. And, we was all sit around drinking and talking, whatever. So the next time he come, my wife would go buy a bottle, I'd buy a bottle. And after, we probably spent the spring probably just trying 10, 15 different brands. That was just our thing. Let's just try all these different brands of tequila that we never heard of before and, take deep dives.
Sure.
So, by late spring, we really thought, we were experts. We knew a lot about tequila and, we were telling all our friends and people, really couldn't relate. And so we just kind of gravitated to this role where, we were going to be that educational piece for people. And people would come back to, my brother all the time for recommendations. And, where I saw there was a business opportunity was that he would tell people about a brand that they never heard of. And people would actually go out and get it, as opposed to generally what happened. You tell somebody about something they never heard of. It was like, oh, okay, I might try it next time, or if somebody has this when I'm out somewhere, maybe I'll try it. But he was so good at convincing people to try these brands. People will go out, find these things, and take pictures of it and send it back to him, right? And after I seen that for a couple of weeks, I was like, hold on, this is different. This is not, just you making recommendations. I'm like, you're really pushing this thing. And so after a while, I was just like, hold on, bro. So how many cases you sold for these people? You ain't got a T-shirt or nothing. We probably could start our own brand, and, we probably could do something. And my brother was like, you're crazy. What the hell do we know about, tequila? And I was like, listen, you're doing half the work. I was like, you might not see it because you're doing it, but me as a third person watching, I'm like, you're already doing it. So I was like, the rest of it, we can figure it out. People are doing it, then, we can figure it out too. Mm-hmm. And so that was the genesis of how we got started.
I love this. And during this time, Dante, all of you, I know it's COVID time, so a lot of us are home. Are you working remotely too, and William too, or what's going on behind the scenes there?
Yeah, so I've been working remotely since 2019. So the pandemic wasn't a change for me. It just made things more crowded, right? Now when I go out, everybody else is out. But my brother, at the time, his job told him they would give them a week on and then a whole week off.
Okay.
So, he had that time. So that was like that free time that, both of us had. We just had a lot of time. And so, yeah, I mean, we still work, but it just the schedules was well, his schedule was different. Mine was, what it was. But yeah,
Mhm.
so we was always had a job.
So is it, the people he's putting on these different tequila brands, is it just sort of friends and family, close people, or is he also posting something on social? Hey guys, try this out. I just tasted this. It's very smooth or whatever it is.
No, it wasn't online. It was all word of mouth. So my
Okay.
brother growing up in Baltimore, like he was the kind of person who was always outside, always that connected and know people and and around. So he had a big network. And so it was just, whether it be his work crew or his friends that he just knew socially, like he was just out, and he would tell people like and one of the examples that I give, like people are familiar with Espolón now, but I'm like back in 2020, no one we knew was trying Espolón, right? Like and that was a good tequila that was like like under $30. That was a pretty good one. Or like Milagro, like that reposado was amazing. Nobody we knew at least was drinking Milagro back then. So, it
Hmm.
was like these things that, that he would turn the people on to that was like, wow. And people actually trying to find us good. Oh, man, they're telling other people. And people would keep coming back to him for recommendations. So yeah, it was just like, okay, if you're doing this like to this level, then you should make some money off of it instead of
Yeah.
just making money for a lot of other people that you'll never see any returns on.
So you saw the business angle of things and the thought and now putting it into action. There's a lot of things that go on there between that. So what happened afterwards when you started thinking about, hey, maybe there's a business opportunity here for us?
Yeah, you know what? I told my brother, I said, you know what? Let me take a look into this and see if this is really viable, and rather than us just, poo-pooing it, because we might let a good idea get by us.
Hmm.
And what happened was I just started, Googling stuff, private label distilleries, all things I could find about the spirits industry. And then I started cold calling people. And, one of the benefits of take that lightly, not take it lightly, but one of the benefits of the time during COVID was that everybody was home. People
Hmm.
had a lot of time. So when I was cold calling people, it was not uncommon for people to give me 35, 40 minutes an hour, on a cold call.
Yeah.
So, I was able to gather a lot of information really quickly. And then, take what you learn. Okay, you go back and do some more research. And so next time you got a next cold call, I got a little bit more information. I can ask more pointed questions to try to get directions. And the one thing I think that really helped us out was when I kind of got a general idea of how the relationships work between the brand and the distilleries and everything, I started reaching out to distributors just to find out, what's the process the brands go through to get with a distributor. What are they looking for? What do they require? And it was a small distributor here in actually he was in DC. And one night, it's probably about 8 o'clock at night, I was just shoot this guy email just to ask him, what's the process? We'll tell him what we're doing, just trying to figure out this process. And the guy calls me. And I was like, what? Like, somebody actually called. And the guy, he called me and said, hey, where are you in the process? And I was like, we're just getting started. We found a distillery. And yeah, so he was like, okay. So he gave me a lot of pointers like, where are you looking to sell? Are you doing on premise, off premise? You know, and at the time, we were only thinking about liquor stores. We weren't even thinking about in bars or in restaurants.
Hmm.
And we was like, oh, well, liquor's everywhere. We can. And so one of the most valuable tips that this guy gave me was just, okay, if you want to sell here in DC, especially in bars, you're going to want a tall, skinny bottle. He said, because if you have something that's not easy for the bartenders to grab, they're not going to push your products. And the bartenders are going to be your best friends when you're working on premise. So, take that. And at that time, we were looking for something short, slow, fat, creative, something that would stand out. We're thinking,
Hmm.
from the off premise perspective. And once that guy told me that, I was like, oh, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. And so we went back to the catalog and we chose, different bottles and we based everything off of whatever looked like on premise. And so, it was just like these kind of things that I could get from people, during that time that right now, people might not have that time to just give you all this information.
So once you gather all this information, Dante, I mean, as far as you already pick, let's say, who's going to distill it, or do you go to Mexico, or how does that go?
Yeah, so we again, not knowing anything about this industry, I started reaching out to distilleries here in the States.
Sure.
And of course, everybody was telling me no at the time. People were cutting production or they were switching over their equipment to make hand sanitizer, like whatever. They just was like, no. I found one guy down in Jacksonville, Florida, who said, yeah, I can take you guys on as a brand, but you got to go to Mexico to get the juice. I was like, well, if I got to get the juice, what the hell I need you for? Again, being, totally novice, I'm thinking
Hmm.
that's the distillery's job, to
Yeah.
produce the liquid. So, okay, fine. So, get off the phone with this guy and I get back to Google. And I started Googling, distilleries in Mexico, trying to figure out, who's out there, who's available, who's going to work with us. And so I started reaching out to a few, and a couple of them came back quickly, and everybody offered different things, and so once I saw this, we started doing our evaluations between the different distilleries, and then that's when we found Casa Maestri, and I was like, oh, here's somebody that's three generations of distillers. They're pretty big, but they're still willing to offer us that hand holding that we're going to need in the beginning. And so, we was like, okay, let's talk to them. And we got on a call with them, told them what we were trying to do, what we were looking for. They said, no problem. We can help you guys get to market, in addition to producing. They would source everything for us. And we were just like, okay, bet. So that's when, I was like, all right, call my brother. I was like, listen, we can do this. My brother was like, okay, I'm with you. And I was like, no. You're not misunderstanding. We can do this. I said, we have a distillery that's willing to take us on and source all the materials to help us get to market. Like, yeah, we really can do this. And then he was just like, oh, so this is what, June of 2020? And then that's, once I saw all the pieces was there that we could put this thing together, that's when we, sat down and said, all right, let's come up with a name. And, let's start working on, the logo and all that.
And that's where the name Los Hermanos came.
Yeah, so my brother, my wife, and I, we were sitting on my deck, and all of us like, okay, we need a name, and the parameters that I gave everyone was like, okay, we want something that's not going to be hard to pronounce, something that's not super unique that people would forget what it was, right? We wanted something that and also I wanted something to try to capture this familiar vibe, because this was the whole reason that we even got into this thing. And of course, right, like Jose Cuervo has the La Familia locked up, and Casamigos is gone, right? So I was like, okay, we need something that can capture this family thing. And so, I asked my wife, said, what do you got? She said, I don't know, thinking about it. I asked my brother, said, he said, I'm working on it. So I said, okay, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? I need something that captures this family vibe, this family thing. And I'm looking at my brother, and for people who don't know us, like at one point in time, people used to confuse us for being twins, even though we're 7 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so people here would see my brother and be like, hey, where's your brother? Or all the time, every time I see anybody, like, hey, how's your brother? Where's your brother? And so the thought came to me, I was like, brothers, what's the brothers in Spanish? And I Googled it. I was like, Los Hermanos. I was like, hey, I like that. So yeah, so you know what? I said, I got a name. So my brother like, this is what he got. I said, Los Hermanos. And my brother said, what? My wife said, my brother was like, yeah, I like that. That's dope. He was like, it's the brothers, it's the play on and all the Spanish to the tequila come from Mexico. My wife was like, that's terrible. I was like, really? She was like, no, you can't use that name. That's terrible. Find something else. And I was like, I don't know. I kind of like that name. And so he was like, you know what? I said, let me sleep on it and we'll see. And I, the rest of that night, I just was thinking, and it was just like, no, like that name stuck. And it was like, yeah. I was like, no, that stuck. And so it was like that organic thought of just Los Hermanos, like, yeah, my brother, because this is us and this is what we were doing. And so really it started, about us, but it's more about the brotherhood in general. I think that's what I tell people. And like, and the sisterhood too, because not just, like manly brothers, but brotherhood, sisterhood, that found family, that bonding thing in general. That's what it's about. Sitting together over, appreciating your company over a good drink.
Yeah. No, I love the name Dante. Yeah. And a great story behind it. So you said this is June 2020. Both you and Will fly down to Mexico, right?
Yeah. So at the time, COVID was running rampant. Nobody really knew what it was, and so the distillery told us they could send us samples, of their
Okay.
house tequila to use as a baseline to see if we like what they do, or if we were willing to fly, we could come down because things were still going on down in Guadalajara or down in Tequila. And so my wife was like, absolutely not. You cannot fly. Like, you see what's happening out there? So, we tell them, okay, send us samples. And oh my goodness, it took like a month or so to get these samples. And we're like, God, this is taking forever. We're excited. We're ready to go. And then when we get the samples, we drink tequila the way we normally drink. We just pour it up and check it back. And we was like, yeah, this ain't really, this is not what we're looking for. So I told my wife, I was like, look, we got to go. I was like, because for us to keep going back and forth with them, it'll probably take a year to get something we like. If we got to wait every time. So, we eventually, convinced her that it was, we were just going to have to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so we set up, scheduled the distillery that we would come in November 2020. So my brother and I, we go down there. Well, actually, before we even got there, I was thinking, like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? Like you don't get two first. So this is the first time we're going to Mexico. This is the first time we're on this journey. And, I was like, you know what? I want somebody to capture this journey for us. And so initially I was talking to photographers here and people just wanted all kind of crazy stuff to go with us. So I was like, okay, you know what? Never mind. Let me go find a photographer on the ground down there. And so when I started Googling photographers in Guadalajara, I found this amazing photographer. And Andres is a wedding photographer by trade, right? But his images was just so beautiful. I was like, this is what I want. And so I reached out to the guy and I was just like, hey, I know this isn't what you typically do, but my brother and I are coming down to, in November. We want to, we're starting our brand and we would love for you to come to document this journey for us. And the guy came back and he was like, yeah, he was like, I would love to be a part of your journey. He was like, I like guys, what you guys are doing. And so when we came, we did a 4-day trip down there. I think the second day, we got there, the guy came and meet us at a distillery. And, he just really stayed with us that whole day. I think the guy took like 3,000 images. He gave us like 200 finished products. I mean, it was insane. But, again, and when we got with the distillery, that's when we found out that, we really didn't know anything about tequila. What we thought we knew, like we weren't even scratching the surface. And so we spent those 4 days there getting a crash course. Like they had us out, in the fields with the farmers, seeing how they tend to the agave on a day-to-day basis, understanding that the farmers or the humidors are not the farmers, right? These are two separate groups of people. Being in the plant with the master distiller, seeing how they distill the agave, the fun part of eating the roasted agave, right? How sweet that is, and chewing on that. Going to see the cellars, going to see where our barrels are stored, and finally we get to the taste testing. Where we're actually sitting down picking our profiles. I mean, it was just like it was an amazing experience that we were lucky enough to have somebody there that was really good to capture all this for us. And even after that, we went out to tequila, so we're out in town exploring and just being tourists at this point. And the guy was still with us capturing all these images for us. So yeah, like that trip, November 2020 was just like something that's etched in stone for us that, we were fortunate enough to capture. And I think even to this day, like we're still using that imagery. Like people love it.
That's great. So when you left Tequila, did you already leave already with this is what it's going to be? This is the taste.
Yeah. So when we were in the tasting room, which if people have never been, I think this is the probably best way you'll ever experience tequila. Like you have to go to the town first of all, but go do a tasting. Sign up to go one of these tastings. So when us coming here from the first time, we're normally drinking tequila, either doing shots or we're doing pouring up a whiskey glass and just doing a neat pour. You just when we come in the tasting room, they have this giant wood oak table where it's like all one piece of wood, and they have the placemats set out as if you were doing a wine tasting. So they have the tequilas here with and the champagne flutes with the toppers on it. They have the plate with the wafers, the coffee beans, the cheese, everything. I mean, it's just like, I realized tequila and champagne flutes. Like what? They're like, yeah, right. And so when we come sit down, they give us the whole little prep about how you try it and how you go through the notes. And so they started out with 3 different blancos And so, we tried the first Blanco, was like, that's okay. It's like got a little bite to it, like, So, try the second one and to just walk people through the experience. So when you first get in, and the flute has this top on it, you put it in there, you kind of swirl it around a little bit, you turn it up, and you look at the legs and see how it comes down. You get the gases going, and then you take it up, and you take a sniff, and you get these things to get that gas, really to get the notes. And so, we're trying to, and also, that about when you're holding the champagne flute, you hold it by the bottom and not the stem, because your hand will warm up the glass and it will change the notes. So, again, all these real in-depth details or whatever. So, we tried the second one. It was like, this is pretty good. Like, okay, let's see with the third one. And when we got to the third one, we was like, ooh, this one is good. This one is really smooth. It was like no bite at the end. And, it was like the agave was like really potent. It was like, okay, this is the one we want.
Mm-hmm.
And so they was like, okay, so we get the water, cleanse your palate, get the coffee beans, get the smells off your hand. Now we go to the reposado. Great, this is what we came for. So we tried the first one, like again, still kind of had that little bite to it, and it's like, nah, this is not it. And so where we're sitting at the table is the people from the distillery are sitting across from us. My brother's sitting on this side, and the photographer's sitting down from him. So we get to the second one, go through all the same things, and we try it, take the top off. I was like, ooh, this smells amazing. Like, all right, like I never smelled nothing like this. So we tried it, and it was just organic. I was just like, oh, I'm turning around and look, my brother, he's smiling, I'm smiling, they're smiling at us. I was like, oh yes, this is the one. I was like, we've had a lot of tequilas before we got here, but we've never had a reposado like this. We was like, oh man, this is it. So they were like, okay, try the third one. I was like, no, I don't need the third one. Like, this is it. My brother was like, yeah, but you got to try it with hair. I said, okay, fine. We tried the third one, and it was good too, but it was just like, no. Our reaction was so organic with this one that, everybody just lit up. I said, that was it. And so, okay, now that we have our two profiles for the Blanco and the Reposado, now it's like time to get into the mechanics. And so that's when they came with the catalogs, with the bottles, we picked our bottles, picked the corks. They came through with all the swaths of different labels. We picked our labels, and we're telling them, because they was going to do the design for us too.
Mm-hmm.
And so we told them, we want the bottle to be based off of our logo. And so, this, okay, we'll send a mock-up to you, probably tomorrow. So, okay, great. So, when we leave the show, we're feeling great. We picked our flavor profiles. We're excited about them. We picked our bottles, labels, tops. All right, great. Again, we go to tequila, we go to lunch, whatever, out in town. I think we, what did we do? Stopped at El Guerrero's on the way back to the hotel, which is amazing if people never been. Like that party, that was amazing. So we get back to the hotel that night. I get an email, maybe about 9 o'clock at night. It's the first look of our bottles. And I was blown away. I'm like, oh my God. So my brother and I, we both have separate hotel rooms. So it's 9 o'clock at night. We're in Mexico the first time, at the long night. I'm running down the hall. I'm boom, 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 knocking at his door. So he's freaking out, thinking something going on. He runs to the door like, what's going on? I'm like, look at this. And he sees that. He was like, holy shit. This is ours. He was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is ours. And I was like, yeah, like that moment, seeing that first mock-up was like a validation. Like we really have a real product. And so prior to this, we were telling people we were going to, we were starting a tequila brand. Back in 2020, everyone said they were doing something, right? Everybody was starting a business, whatever. So people kind of was like, okay. And it was like that night, once we started posting these pictures of us being in tequila and these bottles, people really got serious. And it was like, oh, ping, 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 ping. Social media is going crazy now. People seeing this, like they're really there. They're really doing it.
Yeah.
And so it was like, yeah, it was an amazing experience.
That's amazing. From that period, Dante, to when actually you were able to get the tequila back at home in Baltimore in your hands, how long was that time?
It was a 9-month period. We left, we left November 2020 from down there. We didn't get our first shipment until August of 21. Yeah, like I don't know if it was during COVID or just because the CRT moves at the time, but it was for me, it was a long time. Some people say, it can take longer, but yeah. And again, right, like, so, the fortunate thing for us was that we had built up anticipation from the time we got the idea to do it. You know, we created social media pages. We are pushing it. We get T-shirts made. We're in Mexico. We're, you know, taking pictures. We're posting pictures. So all this time, you know, people was like, "Where is it? Where's the tequila? When it's coming?" We're like, "It's coming. It's coming." So August, what? I think it's like at the end of August, we get the call from the importer, says, "Hey, your shipments arrived." That this is like in the middle of the week. Friday, me and my brother, we take the day off. We ride up to Philly warehouse. We grab the cases. We're coming back to Baltimore, and so my brother knows the liquor store owner in Baltimore. So he asked the guy, like, "Hey, you know, we got our first shipment. Can you put this in the shelf?" So the guy was like, "Yeah, you know, as long as you have your, you know, your permits, your license stuff, no problem." So we're like, "Okay, fine." So, you know, we coming back down the road, we pull up to the guy's store, show him all our paperwork. Guy says, "Sure, give me, you know, 1 and 1." Okay, fine. We don't care. We're excited. So we get outside the store, we get on Instagram Live, let people know, "Hey, we're here. We just got our cases. You guys been waiting for it, blah, blah, blah." 15 minutes later, people pulling up. People pulling up. Boom, boom, boom. Man, people walking out the door with cases. Like, they're literally people buy the case. So the guy comes back out to us, writes us another check, 1 and 1. He puts it back. People come back in, like 2 or 3 people, the case is gone. The guy comes back. Long story short, this guy wrote us like 4 checks that first day. People coming in and out of his store, buying these cases. And, you know, we're capturing all this and we're just throwing it back up on social media. And it was like, that's where we started. We're doing all this, and, you know, again, I'm reaching out to distributors, and it was like nobody was biting, right? And I was like, dang. So I was like, okay, we're probably just gonna have to be independent for a while. And it was like maybe the second week. So again, we had to go back to Philly this time. Got 10 more cases. We're coming back to this guy's store, and we're just going. Like, it got to the point where, as though, I don't know why, the guy just was not by, like, you know, 3 and 3 or something. He just want to keep 1 and 1. So, you know, when we would come, we just park the car out front of his store. Like, I would literally just park my car out front of the store and wait. And the guy would just, you know, go, go, go. And so it was like the second week of us doing this that I reached out to the last distributor on my list. And sent this, I was like, you know what? I probably shouldn't email this guy because nobody else is getting back to me. You know, I had like 4 other distributors I tried. I got no response. Get to the last down the list, and I'm like, you know what? What do I got the list, right? Like, he was gonna say no, he's not gonna respond. At least I tried. So I sent it, fire email off, tell this guy who we were, what we were doing, you know, give him our links out social media. 20 minutes later, I get a call. "Hey, my boss saw you guys' email. He wants to know if you guys want interested in meeting." Yes. And we go down to meet with these guys, the following Tuesday. The guy, you know, said, "All right, what's your story?" You know, tell them how we got into this thing, what we're doing. You know, they try the liquid, they like it. The guy says, "Okay, we want to work with you. You know, you want to work with us. You know, we think we can, you know, help you take off." So we're like, "Okay, great." Now, Otto, prior to this, we never started this company with the intention of being a big brand. We started this company because we thought it would be super cool to have our own tequila when we have family functions, right? We're sitting around drinking our own stuff. So, you know, we started small. I think we had like 175 cases when we started. Because, again, you know, we don't know what this thing is going to do. We don't want to be stuck with, you know, 10 pallets of tequila we can't move. You know, now you got a lot of money invested in this thing. So, really small, we're just trying it out. The guy tells us, if you get with us, we can have you in store this Friday doing the tasting. We're like, yeah, that sounds great. But, oh, you know what? Sure, that's a whale bite. So the guy says, all right, bet. Give me a day. Let me sign up the paperwork. And I'll send, you know, get it with Maryland, get DC going. Says, how many cases do you have? So we, this time, because we already had our launch party, I said, we have about 120 cases. The guy said, no problem, I'll buy them all. Oh, okay. So, you know, we go pick them up, go bring them to this guy. Well, that Friday, we're in DC. Shout out to Chad Slicker. This guy bought 20 cases before he even met us. Just tried to together, sell our store, 20 cases that Friday. We're doing a tasting. And so we went from one location in Baltimore in August of 21 to right now we have over 200 locations, Maryland, DC, Delaware, Georgia, and we just got into New York early this week.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a crazy journey in a little bit of time.
Oh my God, it's crazy, Dante. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's like, and again, my brother and I, we still have full-time jobs, right? So we had an idea that we thought, you know, we could turn into something and it would be, you know, a little small side hustle.
Yeah.
That's become full blown business in less than 2 years, and it's like, oh my goodness! Like, and again, we had no idea because we had no prior experience with this industry to know that the industry was gravitating towards tequila anyway, right? So it was just like we kind of got in early on this wave that when it came, not knowing that there was this huge demand for tequila, and also I think one of the things that really helped us grow was that we launched here. Like Baltimore is traditionally a beer town, and then Sagamore, suburban town. So for us to be in a small town with the tequila, right? Like, oh, that kind of get people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people find that it's actually good. It helped that much more. Because I tell people all the time, I was like, you know what? If we launched in Florida or in Texas, like we might not have got the same traction that we did.
Mm-hmm.
But because we were here in this place where people haven't traditionally seen this thing, it was a thing, And so again, it was just like it's a roller coaster ride. But outside of just on premise, we've won 11 medals in the 2 years that we've been in. I think Blanco has won double gold twice through the Super Awards or the New York World of Wine Spirits competition, gold in the bartenders spirits awards. Like the Reposados won multiple awards, so it's like the industry is recognizing that we have good tequila in addition to the consumers demand for it. We are the official tequila of the Chesapeake Employees Insurance Arena at UMBC, my alma mater. We're also the official tequila of Artscape, that's coming up next week here in Baltimore. So it's like, people are calling, people are checking for us now. So it's a wild experience to, you be out here trying to push your product to when you start turning that corner that now people are calling you, people are looking for you.
And it's crazy to just how it started, just as a way, like you said, when you're holding family events, to just try it, and now it's full blown business, and the way it's been growing in just 2 years.
And yeah, and people. It's funny because people always. I remember when we first started, right? When we had that one location, people would say, "Hey, are you anywhere on East Side? Are you in South Baltimore? Are you here?" And we're like, "We've just got the product. Can you give us a chance to grow, right?" And it's like, all right, give us some time. And now that even all of these low, places that we're in, all these places we have distribution, people are still asking, well, what's next one? Do you have an anejo? Or are you doing the mezcal? And we're like, listen, we've only been in the market for 2 years. Like, you got to give us some time. I know you're excited, but, it takes a lot to get this far, this fast. And I think people who aren't in the industry, like, they don't have appreciation for just how much work it takes to get here. But again, at the same time, we've been phenomenally blessed. And I think a lot of it, I always tell people, like a lot of it was luck and a lot of it is work, because the first year when we launched August of 21, we sold 300 cases that year. Still, we finished last year with 1,400 cases sold. And this year, I think we're on par to do 1,400 again. So like that is a lot of tequila pushing out for a small brand that doesn't have, huge marketing budget.
Mm-hmm.
So
speaking about marketing, I know you said your brother was has a big network, but how did you get the word out there that, here we are, go try us, Los Hermanos, this is where we're located, we're here in all these locations?
It's 90% of it's been word of mouth. Like, and that's why I knew we could do well, because my brother has such a big network. And so, and other was just strategic things, like hiring that photographer before we went. And so, we had that imagery that we could capture, that we can start to build that demand. When we finally got the product here, we had a launch party at down at Charles Village. And so again, we're having up on social media, hey, we're having this launch party, we giving people over there, and like we didn't charge the drinks, right? So we're giving the tequila away all night because we want people to try it. We just want to get it in people's hands. And so again, people, had a thing where you kind of had to dress up for us, so people are excited to dress up and they come. You get free tequila all night, and that they had great food and great venue. So that part, and then it was like, again, I didn't have any media training, but I knew that we had a story. And so I just was blasting every media outlet from here to Virginia, just everybody, shotgunning our story. And, we got picked up by Fox 45 here. They did a story on us. WJZ came out and did a story for us, and that really helped. So I think WJZ was like one of the first news outlets to pick us up. And they called us and said, hey, you got a story. We would love to do a story on you. do you got a place that we can come? And I was like, holy crap. Sure. You know what? Let me call you back and I'll find, So I called my brother. I was like, hey, WJZ wants to come out and do a story on us, but we don't have nowhere to go. Like, we got to figure something out. My brother was like, well, we can kind of go meet them somewhere. And I was like, no, 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 no. Like, this is the first time people are going to see us, so we got to figure this thing out. And it just so happened that Boundary Row had called us because we had did a live, Instagram live, maybe 2 or 3 days before this. And the guy ended the live by telling people to go out and ask for us at their local liquor store. Somebody had went to Boundary Row Minor Spirits and asked for us, and they had called us and says, hey, how do we get you guys? Do you have a distributor? What's your situation? And so when I went and looked them up on their website, I saw they had a really nice store. So I said, you know what? This is what we're going to do. So I called the guy up and I said, hey, listen, I have a media interview from WJZ. They want to do a story on us. I said, as a sign of our partnership, I would love to do the story in your store, right? Like, that's a win-win for us. You get the news, you get the publicity, you get the sales to help push this thing. The guy says, oh, yeah, absolutely. So call WJZ back. Hey, yes, we'd love to do the story. Meet us at Foundry Road Minor Spirits. And we came, there to do the story with them. And people automatically associated us with their store. So that guy did 25 cases that week. Like, right? Because when people saw us, like, oh my God, these guys on the news, that's the only place they knew to go get it. And so people was going there. And so it was just things like that. And then, like I said, later Fox 45 picked us up. The Afro did a story on us. So, we just got a lot of local media, but all of it's been just word of mouth, really.
Dante, you mentioned a couple of times as far as going on IG Live, Instagram Live. Is this through your business account of Los Hermanos or your personal account that you or William have?
No. This is this is the business account. We try to funnel everything through the business account, and then on the tail end of the pandemic, a lot of people were doing Instagram Live, so people were used to waiting to see these things. So we would get on other people's channels and go do live with them. And, I mean, honestly, any kind of platform where we could be seen. So if it's Instagram Live, it's YouTube Live, it's your podcast, whatever. Like, we was just getting out there to get out in front of people, to let people know that we were out here.
Man, and during this time, are both of you still employed full time while doing this and growing it?
Absolutely. From day one, my brother or I, neither one of us had left our job. We still working full time.
Still doing it now, okay.
Yes.
Oh man, your schedule must be packed.
Yeah, it's a juggle. People always acting like, oh, so are you doing this full time or you still work full time? And I was like, both. Like, yeah,
yeah.
I work full time and I'm pushing this business full time. I got 2 full-time jobs and I still got a wife and kids at home that trying to juggle. So yeah, it's a lot. I mean, that's the one thing I think I wasn't prepared for, because starting out in my mind, this was just going to be a cool little side hustle, right? Like, if we only had 2 or 3 stores, so what? It didn't matter, because to me, mission accomplished was that we had an idea and we were able to take this idea to fruition and produce a product, right? Like, at the time, nobody else we knew was in the spirits industry, right? So it was like, hey, I did something nobody else that we know of have ever done. I was happy with that. But when this thing kind of took off, we were not prepared for it, and just how much work it would be. And so trying to juggle, all these different things, that's became a task. It was like, but again, I never complain, because I've seen other people in this industry who hasn't had the same luck that we have, right? So, we could have a bunch of cases sitting in the warehouse getting dusty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's looking for it. So, like, yeah, it's been a lot, but definitely don't complain.
Dante, what would you say drives and motivates you today?
I think just success, like just seeing this thing grow. Like, again, for one, because nobody in my family or our family has ever owned a business. Like, right? Like, some people had, like, a little small side hustles here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but not that many people have had full-fledged businesses, especially when you get outside of, like in the beauty industry or like in the food service kind of thing. So when you kind of get outside of those industries, like, not a lot of people have business. And to see that we had something that is really scalable and, that we really can grow into a major corporation, that excited me. It was like, oh, nobody we knew was in the C-suite nowhere. Nobody we grew up with,
Hmm.
and we have an opportunity to grow this business and to be that kind of people. So yeah, it's just it's like I said, it's a lot of work, but I think the reward will come, right? And and that's the other thing I tell people all the time. People always ask, like, oh, I want to get a tequila brand, I want to get a company, and I was like, okay, but understand this: you gotta really want this thing, right? Like you can't do it for because you think you're gonna make some money, or you're gonna because the amount of work is gonna far exceed the amount of money you're gonna see right away. Like the amount of money, I mean, the amount of work that you're gonna do is gonna far exceed the limelight that you get from social media. So you gotta really want this thing because again, right? Like your free time is gonna go away when you have a business. Like you don't get that much free time to be when all your friends are going to hang out, right? You got to go to work. At the end of the day, when your friends are home watching Netflix, binge watching series, you got to go to work, right? So you got to, and when the weekends come or when holidays come, and everybody's going out to party, this is when you have events. So
Hmm.
you got to understand that this is what it's going to take in order to get a brand off the ground. So like I tell people all the time, like I don't not throwing cold water on their dreams, but trying to give them realistic expectations because people see what you see on social media. I was like, oh, that looks fun. They're at events, oh, this is great. They got a brand this. And I was like, yeah, but you don't want to see what goes in on the back end to prepare for all these events, right? So I just always try to give people some realistic insights into what it's going to take.
I'm glad you mentioned this because a lot of things with the media, they just show the highlights, the glamour, let's call it, right? But they don't see the back end and the hard work you mentioned as far as, and maybe not seeing it profitable until who knows how many years down the road, especially the beginning of the year, the beginning, you know? If someone comes to you, Dante, whether they want to get into the spirits business or other business, besides making sure that you're not doing this just for the money alone, what advice would you give that person?
The best advice that I wish somebody would have given me: do as much research as you can, like before you kind of jump in, because honestly, I think from the outside, as much information as you can find, there's always, that's always just the tip of the iceberg. So, for instance, right, like understanding the relationships between you as a brand, your distillery, and the distributors, right? You got to understand how to manage these relationships. And also, I would tell people to understand business, right? Regardless of this industry, if you're going to get in any kind of business, especially products-based business, you have to understand how to price your products. A lot of us that I've come to, including us, when we got into this thing, our first generation business owners, right? And so a lot of us didn't have that network to go to or have MBAs to understand those mechanics of business. And so a lot of people price their products based on what they think their competitors are, not understanding what your cost of goods is
Mm-hmm.
and what your markup should be or what your margins should look like. And not knowing these things, right, makes that first year, is really a make or break for a lot of people. And at the same time, this industry is really capital intensive. And what that means is that you can start small, right? Especially if you have something like a vodka or whiskey or something like that. But it's going to be hard for you to scale it because you're selling your product on terms to your distributor, right? It's not COD. And so at the same time, while you're waiting for these terms, when you're waiting, whether it's 30 days, 60 days, or whatever, you still have to maintain your operations, right? So you still have bills to pay, you still got things going on. So you haven't had enough cash to carry that over. And at the same time, while you're trying to scale this business and grow, banks are not going to offer you a line of credit. So you're going to use all your own capital, right? So you might be 2 years. First of all, you have to cross that 2 year mark before they even consider having this conversation. Now, as you mentioned before, right? Who knows how long it'll take you to actually be profitable, right? Because you might have to take that loan to go get started, right? And again, if you have that learning curve where you didn't know how to price your products, it might take you 3 years to get profitable. And banks are not going to give you a lot of credit until you can show some profitability. So, right, you're going to be burning through all your own capital, all your capital is tied up in product, right? So now it's this thing that you kind of got to juggle through till you get over these first initial couple years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I try to just tell people like, okay, don't think of the product as the finish. Product is just the beginning, right? Now you have to know how to manage all these other things until you can get to a certain place. That's, when you kind of get in your groove. And then for us, like, yeah, we've, been able to grow a lot, but we've had these same hurdles and same challenges that every other business owner faces, when they first starting out. And again, that learning curve in the spirits industry is huge, right? Because it's not like t-shirts, where I can just go pop up anywhere, start selling
Mm-hmm.
my t-shirts directly to consumers. No, no, no. We might market directly to consumers, but our customers are distributors. That's our customers, right? Like our initial customers. And so this relationship is different. And I think a lot of people don't understand that because all the time we get asked people, oh, do you do private events? I'm having a birthday party. Can you come set up here? Oh, I'm doing this event. And they're like, listen, this is not that we can't just come set up anywhere, pop up our table and start serving shots. Like, no, that's not how this works, right? Like every state has a legal limit of how big these samples can be and where we can sample. So, and again, people all the time, even if we're at events, oh, are you selling bottles tonight? Can you buy bottles? Like, no, we cannot sell directly to retail. I mean, to the consumer. Our license allows us to sell to wholesalers who has a
Mm-hmm.
license, right? Like, so again, you kind of got to do this education piece with people. And, if you're just coming in from a consumer's perspective, people don't know. And people, kind of cut corners and you can really get yourself in trouble, get your business penalized or lose your license before you even get started. So the all that to say, the biggest thing that I can tell somebody is to try to find a mentor in the industry before you jump in.
Speaking about mentors, did you have one? I know a lot of what you did was self-taught, researched, and everything all the time and hours put into it. Did you have anyone though?
No, and oh man, I wish I did. So for us, at least in 2020, I think when we got started, we didn't know anyone in the industry, and we weren't aware of that many brands, black-owned brands, period. And it was like the ones that we knew. I think none of them were local. Like all except for what T Capri, I think she came out in 2020 and really kind of took off. But we don't know her. And again,
Mhm.
we're been enough skills, not gonna ask this lady to be a mentor for us. So, it was just like that. We just all try and error, right? And we really once we got with a distributor, we kind of leaned on them a lot until we kind of understood, some of it. And then later, or actually earlier this year, we just been able to partner with Pronghorn. So, we got a partner now that we have industry mentors that we can kind of go to that we, when we have problems or we have situations, how to navigate these things and, how to navigate the relationship with your distributor and talking, your route to market strategies and all these things. But no, man, that first, year and a half, it was rough. Like this trial and error. And the other thing that I tell people is like, people always want to grow fast and want to be excited. And I was just like, if you don't understand what you're doing, something that could have been a $5,000 mistake can easily be a $15,000 mistake, right? So it was like, it pays to do your due diligence because in this industry, like you can blow a lot of money really fast and not see a lot of returns.
Dante, what would you say is your biggest challenge today with your role at Los Hermanos Tequila?
Um, I think for now the biggest thing is just trying to manage. Multitasking. As people know, multitasking is not a great way to operate, right? Like you always find something. So now we've been fortunate enough that we've been able to hire two 1099s, and so trying to find a time to manage the relationship with both of these people. Manage my distributor, my distillery, grow the business, and still, give a full 8 hours to my day job. It's like that is the biggest part of trying to grow all this thing. For me personally, for the business, we're still just plugging away, like just try to get these sales out the door so that, we can have a long track record to show thanks, we have, a consecutive quarters of profitability so
Mm-hmm.
that, we can eventually get this line of credit.
The two people you mentioned you just brought in, what role are they playing in the business?
Yeah, so the first 1099 I was an admin person. I think people always think about, or my assumption is that people always think about salespeople, right? You get a
Mm-hmm.
salesperson or you get hire somebody who manages social media. Like if you're gonna make a hire, you need an admin person, right? Because you can only do so much at one time. So you need that admin person to take care of a lot of these other things so you can focus on the bigger things. And for me, I always like to have a second set of eyes on a lot of things. And so, again, have that admin person to kind of keep us straight and, keep us on task. And the second was a brand ambassador, like that person to actually get out there and go knock on doors for us and try to open up some new accounts.
Hmm. Okay, that's great. Coming to an end here soon, what are you most excited about? What does the future, the next couple of years look like for you in the business?
Yeah, right now we are really excited about getting to New York. Like I said, we just got in New York this week. We're already having conversations with Happy Corks in Brooklyn. They're excited to have us, so we're trying to work out the logistics now to come up there to do a tasting to kick off our entry into the market. We're looking to launch our NAHO later this year. So, we're working on that now. Hopefully we can get this out by the fourth quarter. And then other than that, I think just really growing the brand in the States. So we're not expanding to any other states in the foreseeable future. So we're just looking at, just going deeper into the states that we're in.
That's great. I know you're busy with two full-time jobs and family, but when you have some time to relax, what do you like to do for fun in your free time?
Um, I think I've always been big on movies. Like I liked, and now I appreciate it more because those 2 hours or 2.5 hours is like time for me to actually zone out, right? I'm turning the phone off.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody's coming looking for me or anything. So I have that 2 hour window to just really get lost in a movie. You're sitting in the dark theater, the big screen, and you just kind of zone out and everything else goes away. And so outside of that, I was cycling. So like that's the other part, I guess it's all about escape. So again, when I'm out there riding my bike, it's like no emails, no phone calls. It's just you're on the open road with the wind in your face, and you can just kind of you and your thoughts, and just so yeah. Those are I think the two biggest things that I use to kind of unwind.
Nice. Dante, if people want to learn more about you and the business and where to find you, where can they get more information, please?
Yes, you can go to our website, tequilaloshermanos.com. You can find us there, all of our locations, our story, and you can find us on Instagram at Tequila Los Hermanos.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I had a great time.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. Take care.
All right, you too.